Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Around the Nation right here, TWT Nation, Jeff Waldorf here with you on this Tuesday afternoon. Welcome to the show. We got a lot of good stories we're going to talk about today, as well as a special announcement. Ooh, very interesting. Oh, this is going to be fun. But first, let me welcome everybody, and if you could, please, I'd like to remind you guys to give us a like and a share. That, of course, helps the show get out to other people, and that is a good thing. Also, if you guys want to help out the show, you can use this YouTube Super Chat, and that allows you to, of course, highlight. It basically highlights your comments for me, so I will read them after breaks. So that's kind of awesome. And I want to thank everybody, of course, for using the YouTube Super Chat. I also want to thank the patrons who support the show by going through patreon.com/TYTNation. You guys also help the show a great deal. You help keep the lights on. So I want to thank everybody for that. All right. Before I get into the breakdown of the day, special announcement. So I'm partnering with Get Vocal. Now, what is that? That is actually a social media platform that is looking to start conversations. I think that's really important. So I talked to them earlier, and they said, look, what we want to do is we want you to start and do some 15-minute streams and just get a conversation started, get a discussion started, and then the thing about them, Get Vocal, is that then people who watch that discussion can launch their own discussions in the same thread. So that's actually really cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a 15-minute once a week for the next few weeks. And I urge you guys to join in with that discussion, and I'll have a link in the description. So that's kind of awesome. I really look forward to seeing your guys' responses to our discussions on Get Vocal, and so it's really exciting. Okay. Anyway, let's move on. Let's get into the breakdown of the day. So here's we have Trump supporters having an interesting boycott. Fun. We also have Alan Dershowitz and some of his first world problems. That's a fun story as well. Maybe not so fun for Alan, but fun for me. We also have North Korea. We have the economy. We also have Scott Pruitt, the latest going on at the EPA. And finally, is literacy a right? Well, there are some people that don't think so. Interesting. So we'll talk about that. So that's your breakdown here for the stories. So let's dive in. We'll have a little bit of fun with the boycott. Okay. It appears that Walmart is suffering a little bit of a boycott. Now, that is something that I thought would never happen. Now, the retail giant is apparently facing backlash from conservatives over certain things that they are selling, certain shirts. Now, you can see it in the graphic that I have over here. Impeach 45. That's actually interesting. Okay, so they're taking issue with that. Fox News notes that Old Glory is a company that is selling the clothing with Impeach 45, of course, emblazoned on the front. And Trump supporters are very unhappy. Fascinating. So, look, right now there is a hashtag boycott Walmart. We're going to boycott Walmart because we are so upset when it comes to this T-shirt. That's funny. I'm going to show you a couple of examples of some of the T-shirts that they have worn. But first, I do want to give you some a few comments on what they were on this whole thing towards Walmart. First, let me get some of those tweets here pulled up. Let's see. You'd think I'd be more prepared. Okay. So, here we go. Some fun tweets here. Let's see. They are still angry that their stores were raided and all their illegal alien subcontractors were arrested. Sam Walton would hardly notice to buy anything but American philosophy that a spoiled brat kids follow. Hey, look, if you want to say that Walmart deals with cheap Chinese goods, I'm with you. But really? Now you're getting upset over that? That's strange. They also, another person tweets in, Impeach 45 clothing, really? Goodbye, Walmart. Boycott begins tomorrow. Was going to be buying thousands of dollars in supplies through you for my business. Guess not. Walmart boycott starts now as long as you keep selling impeach Trump gear. My family will no longer shop at your stores. A corporation such as yours should not take political stance one way or the other. Bad business decision on your part. You just alienated a huge demographic. But wait a minute. Walmart also sells Make America Great Again stuff. In fact, they sold merchandise that was pro-Trump during the election. Oh, now you're saying they should be neutral. Oh, that's very interesting. Oh, they shouldn't take a political stance except when they have pro-Trump stuff. Another tweet. Walmart, if you don't rectify this, I'm gone. I'm gone. Okay. Bye. And of course, there's somebody tweeting to Candace Owens. Here's a new one for you, Candace. Walmart has gotten to the political foray. They did before. They have listed Impeach 45 shirts on their website and did not say a word about it. They will not get one more penny from me. Finally, old man Sam, who created Walmart, is rolling over in his grave right now. Boycott Walmart until they fix this liberal crap. And that's just a sampling of tweets from Trump supporters, from conservatives. Now, I want to show you a couple of these of shirts that Trump supporters enjoy sporting. Let me show you this here. Oh, look, this is my favorite. Fuck your feelings. Trump 2016. And there's also, we don't have pictures of this one, but Trump that bitch. And they got in a little bit of trouble over this one. Rope tree journalist. Some assembly required. Now look, compared to that, Impeach 45 is actually rather mild. Because it actually doesn't involve violence. But look, there are also shirts, lock her up. And of course they chant that at rallies. So it is kind of funny to see how upset they are now that somebody even brought up the mention of impeachment. Impeach 45. How dare you? Impeach him. Boycott him now. How dare they say impeach 45? Boycott, boycott, boycott. I will never, ever shop at Walmart ever again. You got to rectify this liberal crap. How much of a snowflake are you? Really? The people who are upset about this? Oh, I'm so... I said fuck your feelings, but my feelings... No, my feelings are precious. Like little snowflakes. Come on, man. This is ironic because without Walmart, where are Trump supporters going to shop? I mean, seriously. And look, again, they sold goofy Make America Great Again items such as the hats and the shirts and the coffee mugs. And look, Walmart also sells Dynasty stuff. Now, me personally, I tend to prefer to avoid Walmart if possible, but it's not because of political shirts they may or may not sell. Okay, I'm actually more upset at Walmart for exploiting low-wage workers and getting tons and tons of money in corporate welfare. But that's just me. It's not any of that that upsets Trump supporters. No, 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 no. It's about a shirt. How dare you float the ideal of impeachment? It kind of shows you how thin-skinned and how incredibly hypocritical and super sensitive these people are. No, no. Get over it and grow up. Just like your shirt says, fuck your feelings. I don't care. Look, a lot of the stuff that they wear is violent. And so that's why they got a lot of backlash for the rope tree journalist. But as far as this, I mean, look, I don't have a problem with the shirt if it's not violent. But if it does incite violence, then yes, absolutely. But this whole thing is ironic. At most. I mean, again, they're like, fuck your feelings, snowflakes, suck it up. But when it's their feelings, of course, it's, oh, how uncivil. You guys are being so uncivil. You guys are being so hateful towards conservatives. We should boycott you. Yeah, okay. Good luck with that. You know my stance on boycotts. Generally, they don't necessarily work. Especially from the so-called silent minority. I'm sorry. Did you say majority? No, you're a minority of the country. And you continue to shrink because of stuff like this and the hateful rhetoric. So have fun with that until you run out of money. So until you have to go and shop for food and cheap food again. Sad. Don't really have anything else to say about that. It's just, Okay. Speaking of being civil, let's go to this. So in the discussion that we're having about civility here in America between two different polarized factions, Alan Dershowitz has decided to weigh in, and I'm sure you're really, really excited to hear what he has to say. Well, even if you're not, he's actually very tired of intolerance from the left. Oh, of course. Now, recently he wrote an op-ed in The Hill that claims that liberals in Martha's Vineyard have become so intolerant that they are shunning him from their fancy parties. Oh my God. The humanity! What is Alan Dershowitz ever going to do if he doesn't get invited to the fancy parties on Martha's Vineyard? Now, of course, this all started when Maxine Waters said that we should challenge the administration officials, wherever they're at, if we see them out in public over the policies of that administration. Now, of course, Donald Trump and the right wing, they're like, they're being so violent. They're attacking us in the street. No, we're not. And look, a recent story. Scott Pruitt sitting and dining in a restaurant. And a woman walks up to him, and she's carrying her child in her arms. Said, hey, this is my son. Turns out he likes clean air, animals, and clean water. That was enough to get Scott Pruitt to get up and walk away. A snowflake. If you can't handle that kind of criticism, then what are you even doing in government? Of course, the administration is getting a lot of criticism because of the terrible things that they're doing. So people, of course, when they see them, they're speaking out. And Maxine Waters is like, do that. Yes, challenge them. Now, of course, Trump supporters and officials are not happy about that. Now, the thing about that is I think that that's actually part of free speech. And actually, it's in a way petitioning your government in order to redress your grievances, like calling out your politicians. It's also in the case of, for example, you have, after Maxine Waters said you should challenge people, well, you had Sarah Huckabee Sanders that got asked to leave the Red Hen restaurant. Politely, of course. Hey, look, we don't agree with your administration's policies. You work for the administration. You're the mouthpiece for that administration. And we're just not comfortable serving you here. I know they judged her on the content of her character instead of the color of her skin. And, of course, conservatives went apoplectic over it. And now Dershowitz thinks that doing all that stuff is crossing the line. And to be fair, look, this is something that I completely disagree with Bernie Sanders on. Bernie Sanders said, look, we do need to be civil. You can't do that. You can't kick somebody out or ask somebody to leave if you don't agree with them politically. Well, again, I disagree with Bernie Sanders because this is more than just having a political disagreement. This is basic human decency that we're talking about. So anyway, Dershowitz, let me get to the op-ed that he wrote in The Hill. He said, Waters does not speak for all Democrats or liberals, nor do those who threw Sarah Huckabee Sanders out of the Red Hat restaurant. Neither do those who have harassed other members of the Trump administration. Yes, these are people who have been directly affected by some of the decisions in the Trump administration. Those are the ones that are speaking out. But no, that's harassment. Forget what the Trump administration is doing to their lives with their policies that are abhorrent. No. We're just going to worry about the safety and security and the feelings of the people in power. No, fuck the people in power and fuck their feelings. I think we're pretty clear about that. Remember, what we're talking about here is stuffing kids in cages. That's what they were doing. They were putting kids in cages and separating them from their families, okay? And sometimes they would even charge parents hundreds of dollars to be reunited with their kids, or made them sign things that they would deport them if they were going to go get their kids, to drop their asylum cases. Oh, you can get your kid back if you say that you're not going to seek asylum after all, you drop your case. But wait a minute, that's extortion. Don't care. You ever want to see your kid again, then you just have to leave and take your kid with you. That's what we're talking about here. This is a debate. No, it's not a debate. Look, Dershowitz, though, says that the people that are challenging members of the administration that are taking part and defending this policy are saying that these rude extremists are a symptom of the times. You hear that? You're the extremist. You're not separating families at the border. You're not stuffing kids into cages. You're the extremist, though? That's bullshit. We're not the ones that are destroying the rule of law or doing horrific policies that impact regular people. But we're the rude ones because we decide that sometimes we want to yell at a politician. Oh my God, how sad. He said the divisions have gotten so bad that many on both sides refuse to speak or listen to those on the other side. Either you are for Trump or against him, and that is all some people need to know to make judgments about you. Well, I think this is the case. Look, in normal circumstances, if our politics were sane, then, okay, you can make a point about, look, there are good ideas on both sides. And there's disagreements on both sides, but we can come to an agreement. But this is different. This is far different from that. We're a far cry. The Overton window has shifted so far to the right that here you have a president that says Nazis are also some good people. For example, in Charlottesville. Oh no, there are good people on both sides. No, on one side there are Nazis, and Nazis are terrible people. And they will always be terrible people. It's that equivocation that is frustrating. Look, if you support this policy, which is aimed at discouraging asylum seekers, and because that's what a majority of these people are, by the way, they're here seeking asylum from dangerous conditions in their home countries. Those conditions include rampant gang violence and death. If you support holding children hostage to get people to sign deportation orders or to promise that they're going to drop their asylum cases, then you're a garbage person. And it shows that you don't want anyone here. Because what they're doing, asking for asylum, is the legal way to ask for asylum. You show up at a port of entry, you surrender yourself, and you say, I want to be here for asylum. I want to apply for asylum. And then they're supposed to take you in and do asylum. Or figure out if your case is specific to asylum and you're eligible. That's not what they're doing. They're just arresting people, separating families, and stuffing them in jail. And now, of course, it's changed. Donald Trump did sign an executive order, which is temporary. It says we can't actually separate the families. Now we're just going to throw them in jail. And they want to do so indefinitely. These are people that were not criminals. They were seeking asylum. If you support that, you're a garbage person. And don't be surprised when someone sees you on the street and calls you a garbage person. Now, anyway, here's the best part, right? So, back to Dershowitz. Now, he's actually really heard about this because he's been shunned by the people at Martha's Vineyard. Quote, "For them, it is enough that what I have said about the Constitution might help Trump. So they are shunning me and trying to ban me from their social life on Martha's Vineyard." Oh, how sad. One of them, an academic at a distinguished university, has told people that he would not attend any dinner party to which I was invited. Oh no! Oh, poor Alan Dershowitz. Oh my God, he can't go to a dinner party. Shut the fuck up. I hate this guy. Now, he continues. He and others have demanded trigger warnings so that they can be assured of having safe spaces in which they will not encounter me or my ideas. Or maybe you're just an insufferable ass and nobody wants to hang around you. Others have said they will discontinue contributions to my organizations that sponsor my talks. Oh, poor Dershowitz. You are just like the people that are getting ripped from their parents. Oh, wait. No, it's not. This is ridiculous. Now, finally, he continues. These childish efforts to shun me because I have refused to change my position on civil liberties that I've kept for half a century discourages vibrant debate and may dissuade other civil libertarians from applying their neutral principles to a president of whom they disapprove. See, oh no, you're discouraging debate. Where's the debate? Child cages. Child cages. Indefinite detention for asylum seekers. Where is the debate? There are children being brought into court as young as 6 months old and tried for border crossing. Where's the debate? Are we having a civil debate here about, no, 6-year-olds belong, or I'm sorry, 6-month-olds belong in court to argue why they crossed the border? That we're having a debate. Is that where we're having a debate? Oh, no, I want to be neutral here. There is no neutrality on certain issues. You can't just call everything equal. And that's what Alan Dershowitz is trying to do. Oh, no, this side is just as equal as this side. Why are you being so uncivil to people who think the Nazis are okay? To people who think that holding kids for ransom is cool? No, you're a garbage person. Fuck you, Alan. God. Oh, I'm sorry. Is this triggering other civil libertarians from applying neutrality to an issue which shouldn't at all be neutral? Is that the problem? No, that is your problem. He even compared his treatment by a few rich liberals, which I don't agree. I have a lot of problems with the bourgeois liberals, right, and their limousines. But he compared this treatment, saying, I don't want to go to a dinner party if Alan Dershowitz is there, because Dershowitz is kind of a dick. Well, he compared this to McCarthyism. Yeah, McCarthyism. Look, man, that's insanity. Oh, no, you're treating me so unfairly. Like the people who were accused of being communists back in the 1950s and 60s. That's how they're treating me. I'm like a pariah at Martha's Vineyard. No, suck it up, dude. And right now, he thinks that Maxine Waters is the problem. Maxine Waters is the problem. Not the fact that our discourse has gone so far to the insane right wing on issues that you can't have, like, you can't have a conversation with Nazis. Nobody should be having conversations with Nazis. But that's what they're urging. Oh, stability. We need more stability in politics. Things are so uncivil. We're being so unfair to Nazis. No, dude, fuck off. Maxine Waters has been getting death threats, okay, for just saying that we should challenge people in the administration, that we should call them out and say, hey, look, if you see somebody from the administration having a meal, tell them how you feel. Don't attack them. Don't do physical altercation, but to say, hey, I disagree with your political stance. I think that what you're doing is morally and ethically wrong and is disastrous for this country. That's what she's saying. She gets death threats for that. Oh, but both sides are equal. Both sides are I'm just here to encourage debate between two perfectly reasonable sides. Again, if things were reasonable, I would agree with him, but things are not reasonable. Both sides are not the same. And both sides do not have good ideas. And look, did Alan Dershowitz, by the way, before this whole civility talk, was he talking about how the Obama administration, President Obama was getting constant violent death threats? And people in the administration were getting constant violent death threats urged on by the right wing. No. And look, there were people that were hanging him in effigy, shooting likenesses of him. Would the Dershowitz speak out? Did he say, oh, God, that is so uncivil. Why you guys got to be so uncivil? Or is it only uncivil when liberals, who, by the way, don't do that kind of stuff, and when they do, they get widely denounced by fellow liberals? Did they do any of that? No. It's when liberals shout someone down or ask them to leave an establishment based on their policy positions, everybody goes after them. The right wing cries and cries and cries so much. And then you got people like Alan Dershowitz that go and attack liberals with them, with the right wing. This isn't McCarthyism. Some rich guy bitching about not getting invited to the latest party, all while real people are suffering under this horrific administration. Dershowitz is the fucking worst. Get some perspective. Come back. Okay. The worst. Okay. So President Trump is taking a little bit of a victory lap over his deal with North Korea, which actually isn't much of a deal, but we'll get to that. On Twitter, he tweeted, "Many good conversations with North Korea. It's going well. In the meantime, no rocket launches or nuclear testing in 8 months. All of Asia is thrilled. Only the opposition party, which includes the fake news, is complaining. If not for me, we would now be at war with North Korea." So, look, there's a lot to unpack on that. For one, it's only been a couple of days since the shooting at the Capitol Gazette in Maryland, Indianapolis. So that just happened. That was an attack against the media, specific members of the media. But no. Immediately he goes back to the fake news. The fake news. And the opposition party. Well, at least they didn't call them enemies of America. Oh wait, he did that before. Anyway, so okay. Now, let me get to the actual details here, things that actually matter. For one, no rocket launches or nuclear testing. Well, hey, that's a good thing, right? That might have something to do with the fact that North Korea's testing area that was inside of a mountain literally collapsed in upon itself. Might be a little bit of a reason why they're not testing new missiles. But okay, look, I guess if you want to take some sort of credit for them not needing to test any new missiles, okay, whatever. Now, second, here's the thing that really bothers me, right? We would have been in war with North Korea if it hadn't been for me. Wait a minute. We were almost getting into a conflict with North Korea. And you know who nearly started that conflict? Yeah, that was you. Oh, my button is bigger than your button, Rocket Man. We will rain fire and fury upon North Korea. You brought us to the brink. So you bring us to the brink with a manufactured crisis, and then you take a victory lap when you avoid war, when you bring it back from something that you created. That's what he does, man. And then went to a summit where he signed something that didn't actually say anything. And that's my big problem here. Okay. But no. Here's the thing. North Korea, he's saying that, well, North Korea went really well. They're going to denuclearize. Really? How come satellite images just recently showed that North Korea is expanding one of their nuclear facilities? Well, that's weird. In fact, reports have also said that they have kept up nuclear production at some of their other locations. According to the Washington Post, the latest U.S. intelligence assessment of North Korea's nuclear weapons program suggests that officials were exploring ways to deceive Washington about the number of nuclear warheads and missiles and the types and numbers and facilities that they actually have, believing that the United States is not aware of the full range of their activities. So, they're looking at ways to basically lie to us to continue their nuclear program. Oh, well, that's great. Look, I'm in favor of peace. I don't want a war with North Korea. And look, there are people that do want war with North Korea. The defense contractors. They would stand to make billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars in contracts, and they would make a ton of money off a war with North Korea. So that's what they want to do. Neocons want war more than anything. I don't. But here's the thing. I also don't want North Korea to have nuclear weapons. I want them to denuclearize. In fact, if it were up to me, if I were president or if I were king of the fucking world for, one day, get rid of all the nuclear weapons. Gone. Nobody should have nuclear weapons. It doesn't make sense for a bunch of countries who are geopolitical foes to have weapons that could destroy the entire fucking world all pointed at each other. That doesn't make any sense. But that's just me, right? But here's what really happened. Kim Jong-un manipulated you by stroking your ridiculously large ego, which, by the way, doesn't even match the size of your hands. Your hands are small, your ego's huge. What does that say about you? Any deal with North Korea has to involve inspections. What did you get with your so-called deal? A vague promise and maybe more talks. Okay, look, I'm not against more talks. Let's have more talks. Let's get to a point of where, any talks, any deal with North Korea needs to involve inspectors, UN inspectors, American inspectors, going into North Korea and doing verification. You know what deal had verification? The Iran deal that you ripped up. Man, look, if there are no inspections, how are we supposed to know? Right? That's why we need inspections, right? We're supposed to take your word for it? Donald Trump says, yes, absolutely. I met Kim Jong-un. He's a great guy. He's such a strong leader. We have great chemistry. Oh, my God. It's almost as... Actually, that is worse than George W. Bush looking into Putin's eyes and seeing his soul. He's got a good soul. We can trust him. No, we cannot. The leaders of other countries are always going to look out for other country or for their own countries, not for American interests. And it's funny because Donald Trump isn't even looking out for American interests. He's more looking out for Russian interests than anything else. Jeez, man. This is why the world is laughing at us, literally laughing at us, because these leaders know that they're dealing with a sucker, with an idiot and a moron of the highest magnitude. Okay. I'm going to take a quick break here. We'll come back. We got some more stories, so don't worry. We've got economic news. We've got some corruption, and also literacy. Is it a right? We're going to talk about that. We'll be right back. We're back. Round the Nation right here, TBT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. If you haven't already, please give us a like and share. And please consider sending us your super chats so I can read them during the show. Okay. Anyway. So, moving on from North Korea to the EPA. Okay. Fun. So, let's talk about Scott Pruitt and more corruption. Okay. Now, EPA head Scott Pruitt continues to be the most corrupt person inside the Trump administration, which is actually a pretty high bar. I mean, considering how he's competing with Trump himself over the mantle of who can be the most corrupt person in the administration. Now, apparently, according to whistleblowers inside the agency, Pruitt, in his latest example of corruption, is hiding meetings from public scrutiny in order to avoid the appearance of looking corrupt. Well, it's a little late for that, since Pruitt keeps getting himself involved in a lot of different scandals, including spending taxpayer money on crazy things like security systems, things to bash open doors, soundproof booths. This guy, he's got a weird problem with spending taxpayer money on weird shit. And now, this is not quite related to that, but nonetheless, could be a bit of a problem. Now, CNN explains that Pruitt would alter his official calendar and keep private records of his actual meetings in order to hide them from the public. This whistleblower, Kevin Chemlusky, told CNN that, quote, "We would have meetings where we were going to take off the official schedule. We had at one point 3 different schedules. One of them was one that no one else saw except 3 or 4 of us." Now, that's fascinating. He also said it was a secret and they would decide what to nix from the public calendar. Now, why would you hide meetings? Oh, that's very strange. Well, we'll get to that. First, Chemlusky said Pruitt wanted to eliminate records of meetings that might look bad, and that aides would get together at Pruitt's discretion to get through his schedule and determine what should be left off or what should change or scrub from the public calendar. So just how many of these meetings did they scrub? Well, a comparison of internal EPA records and Pruitt's public calendar showed a discrepancy, including more than 24 meetings, phone calls, or events being kept off of the public calendar. I don't think you're going to be surprised that some of the people and some of the events that they found were left off the official calendar. One of them ranged from coal industry CEO Joseph Kraft, a meeting with him, and other industry executives, to meetings with Kellyanne Conway, to Cardinal George Pell. Now, George Pell is a Vatican official and climate change skeptic who had been hit with sex crime charges. Uh-oh. So, look, that's a little weird. But I'm actually more interested in the coal barons and other industry executives meeting with the head of the EPA. Now, look, if it's an official meeting to discuss regulation and how they impact business, I guess that would make sense considering how the EPA crafts regulation. However, they also don't, the EPA should also be meeting with environmental groups. In fact, that they're not. So they're not meeting with environmental groups, but they are meeting with coal executives, oil executives, etc. So that looks bad in itself. And they realize that, and they're like, well, I still want to meet with the coal guy because I want to deregulate the coal industry because they've given me so much money over the years. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to hide the meetings. I'm still going to have the meeting. We're still going to discuss how I'm going to help industry, but we're just going to keep it off the official record. Look, that is super, super corrupt, super shady, and against the entire point of the EPA. Of course, none of that matters to Scott Pruitt or to President Trump. However, what might matter is that this activity is possibly illegal. Now, Larry Noble, Senior Director of the Campaign Legal Center and former General Counsel at the Federal Election Commission, explains, if somebody changed, deleted, scrubbed a federal record with the intent of deceiving the public or intent of deceiving anybody, it could very well be a violation of federal law. Well, that it appears to be what happened. Again, they had at least 3 different schedules in which a very limited number of people saw. Now, the person, Kevin Chemlusky, he was actually fired from the EPA for asking too many questions about what Pruitt was doing with public money. Hey, what are you doing with this? Why are you buying a soundproof booth? All right, you're asking too many questions. You're out of here. That's what somebody who is incredibly corrupt does. When somebody asks questions, they fire them. That's what's going on in the EPA. But look, even if it's not illegal, which again it possibly is, it's still corruption. Again, why would you want to hide meetings with coal barons if you're running the EPA? It's probably to discuss some sort of deal where you deregulate the industry and you will possibly get something in return. Now, there is one thing, I guess at least he's got some sort of awareness about how terrible it looks. But imagine what kind of things that they're talking about inside those meetings. And it's nothing good, if I had to guess, it's nothing good for the environment. I do believe that Pruitt is one of the most corrupt people in this administration. He is emblematic of the swamp that Trump had campaigned on draining. Even so, with all the corruption and all the news stories, which, look, unfortunately don't get a huge amount of play, although they do get into the news, Pruitt is still able to keep a low profile when it comes to national media attention. I think part of that is probably from Trump's ability to steal headlines. I think a major part of that. But another part of that is he is one of the people that Donald Trump trusts the most. In fact, now that some of his closer aides are gone, Trump spends a lot of time talking to one-on-one to Pruitt. So that is a good indication that Pruitt is still going to stay in this administration for quite some time, which again is ironic because Pruitt is probably the biggest swamp monster there, and he's doing so much damage to the EPA while he's there. So we got to get rid of this guy, and I just don't know what it's going to take to get rid of Pruitt. We might have to get rid of Trump first, and that probably won't be that easy. Elections matter, man. Midterms matter, and so do elections. So get involved. Get primary elections, very, very important. So get involved so that we actually have a good candidate when it comes to general election, so we can actually win and kick these people out of office and end the corruption. Okay. All right. Now during, let me start that again. Now President Trump's tax cuts had promised to bring economic growth, right? In the form of more jobs, better pay, better benefits, all that stuff. Now, of course, none of that happened. I think it's fairly obvious. Oh, no, we understand. What's your problem, Jeff? We have a great stock market, and unemployment is down. What are you talking about? Well, what I'm talking about is the economy and what they're actually doing with the money and what the stock market actually is doing. And they're not, and it doesn't mean that jobs are going to come. It doesn't mean that corporations are going to raise your wages and all that stuff. No, what it means is that they're buying back their own shares. And of course, that's what they've been doing. In fact, so far, corporations have been holding on to about $2.1 trillion worth of cash. And they've been spending that mostly on stock buybacks, as well as mergers and acquisitions. In fact, Art Hogan, Chief Marketing Strategist at B. Riley FBR, says corporate cash is going to find a home. And it's either in buybacks, dividends, or M&A activity. Now, we've seen the effect of that. In fact, we warned that if you give tax cuts to rich corporations, they're going to go and they're going to buy back their own stocks. And that's what happened. In fact, companies have announced $433.6 billion in share repurchases during this period. This is the second quarter. That nearly doubled the previous record of $242.1 billion in the first quarter, according to marketing research firm TrimTabs. Dow components like Nike and Walgreens Boots Alliance led the most recent surge in buybacks, with $15 billion and $10 billion respectively last week. In all, 31 companies announced buybacks in excess of $1 billion during the month of June. Now, why is this important? Well, basically, what I'm showing you is the stock market is not surviving and not thriving because everything is fantastic, because the economy is great. No, they're surviving, they're growing because companies have artificially inflated their stock prices through stock buybacks. Now, look, I don't think I should have to explain why this is a terrible thing because, look, the companies, this doesn't mean that they're more profitable. And they're not selling more. They're not making more. People aren't investing in them more. What they're doing is that they're just taking these tax cuts and reinvesting in themselves. They're artificially inflating their stock values. And what that does is that ends up creating a false economy. There is a bubble that is formed in Wall Street from these stock buybacks. And guess what bubbles do? They burst. However, before that happens, there are going to be some people that are going to make quite a bit of money. In fact, executive bonuses are one of the things that have also increased since the Trump tax cuts. So far, companies have issued a record $111.6 billion in dividends during the second quarter, bringing 2018 to a total of $220.8 billion. That is a 7.8% increase over the same period last year. So that is, of course, what they give their shareholders, dividends. Now, capital spending, however, that includes getting new equipment, hiring new workers, and expanding operations. That expected to rise at a more modest pace, 6.6% in 2018 and 5% in 2019, according to mid-June estimates from the Conference Board. So let me recap here. Stock buybacks are booming. Dividends are booming. Executive bonuses are getting bigger. Whereas capital spending on things like jobs are actually growing at a much, much slower pace. Now, CNBC notes that while companies are likely to continue to prop up the market by returning cash to shareholders, it comes against a backdrop of concern that there simply may be no better place to put money amid trade uncertainty. And that, of course, goes to Trump's trade war. But even without that, they would still be flush with cash and would not, apparently, in their view, not have any better place to put it than back in their own pockets. Well, here's an idea. Why don't you actually invest it back into your workers? I know. Oh, my God. Putting it back in their workers? No, we can't do that. Here's the thing. It's not... The whole argument of getting tax cuts to the rich is that it's going to trickle down, right? Well, it hasn't trickled down. And it's not going to trickle down. And I love the fact that they just don't know where to put their money. We've got all this money from the Trump tax cuts that we lobbied for, that we spent millions of dollars buying off our politicians for. And we just got all this money. We just don't know what to do with it. All this money. I mean, I just don't know. I guess I'll just put it back in my pocket. No, that's what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing with the money. They're giving themselves raises. Which instead, they should be giving their workers raises. For God's sakes, man, wages, let me show you. Wages have increased only 2.7% in the last year. It's real wages. This is what, regular working people take home from the job every day. That barely keeps up with inflation. In fact, minimum wage, for example, okay, we're talking about minimum wage. Minimum wage is actually worth less in dollar figures today than it was back in the 1960s. Give your workers a raise. They deserve it. In fact, it's my favorite chart here. It's a chart that I always like to show you guys. This is productivity versus wages. Workers are more productive than they have ever been, and yet wages will continue to stay stagnant. Because they don't want to raise wages. Look, these companies, again, they were sitting on over $2 trillion worth of cash. And they're saying, I guess we don't have anything to spend it on, so we'll just go and spend it on ourselves. No, they want to spend it on themselves because they're greedy. They don't want to increase wages. Why? It's not a priority. It's never going to be a priority. This is why we need a living wage. And actually, A good example of why we need a maximum wage as well. Even with all this extra money floating around in these corporations that are incredibly profitable, they will still not raise wages. Why? Because they're not interested. They're not interested. These corporations, they need to be taxed, and wages need to be raised through federal action. The whole fact that they're complaining about not being able to spend money on anything just proves that they have no excuse not to do so. That we should federally mandate a raise in the minimum wage, $15 an hour, and institute a maximum wage. Because there is no excuse not to. Okay. All right. A Michigan judge has ruled last week that children do not have a fundamental right to learn how to read and write. Now, this ruling, of course, came in response to a lawsuit filed by public counsel on behalf of children in the Detroit area. Now, these kids wanted to hold state authorities responsible or accountable, including people like Rick Snyder, who's the governor of Michigan, for what plaintiffs alleged were systemic failures depriving children of their right to literacy in school. Now, the suit also sought to fix crumbling roads and schools, crumbling schools, among other measures that in Detroit that would have cost about $500 million. So these students are saying, look, because we're going to school in areas that don't have any money, that don't have good teachers, that have overcrowded classrooms and infrastructure that's falling apart, our right to literacy, the ability to be able to learn to read and write, is being impacted, and that children are not getting educated in the way that they should. Now, U.S. District Judge Stephen Murphy III said, no, we don't think that you have a right to that. In fact, he said that even though literacy is important, you shouldn't have an expectation, a right to be taught. He said, plainly, literacy and the opportunity to obtain it is of uncalculable importance. As plaintiffs point out, voting, participating meaningfully in civic life, and accessing justice all require some measure of literacy. So, wait, that's a good argument for literacy being a fundamental right for all people. But no, he's saying that, well, even though it's all that stuff and just being able to, be a part of civil society, well, we don't think it's a right, a fundamental right. In fact, he said, those points do not necessarily make access to literacy a fundamental right. Saying that, look, the Supreme Court had ruled in the past that the importance of service does not determine whether it must be regarded as fundamental. But education, it's education. Everybody should have a right to education, to be educated, and to be able to survive in modern society. You can't be part of modern society if you don't know how to read and write. We're not in the Middle Ages here, okay? You don't just work for some feudal lord and never learn how to read and write. No, that's very, very important. To say that a decent education and literacy is not a right is actually ridiculous, especially since we live in the wealthiest country in the entire world. Now, Ivy Bailey, president of the Detroit Federation of Teachers, said, quote, I'm shocked. The message that it sends is that education is not important, and it sends the message that we don't care if you're literate or not. We just don't care. We're not Saudi Arabia. And yet, here we are saying that fundamental education is not a right. Now, here's the thing. There are people that don't care. I mean, look at who brought this case. Poor inner city kids in Detroit. That's who brought this case. Well, guess what? Most of those are probably minority children. You don't think that there's some sort of racial component here? I mean, this case is about funding schools to make sure that they can actually properly teach these children. Now, this wouldn't happen in Beverly Hills, Michigan. Yes, there is a Beverly Hills here in Michigan, or East Grand Rapids. Now, those cities, and the reason that I point them out is because they would never have this problem. They're the wealthiest cities in the state. And therefore, if they're a wealthy city, then they have wealthy schools. And they have some of the best schools in the state. They don't have to worry about the walls falling down or asbestos in the walls or mold. They don't have to worry about any of that stuff. They don't have to worry about classrooms that are overcrowded and teachers that are not vetted. They don't have to worry about any of that. For them, good education is something that they will never have to go without ever. But when it comes to poor kids in the city, especially minority children, well, apparently they don't have a right to be literate, even especially if it's going to cost us any money. They're not worth it anyway. That's the mindset. I think to them, it's perfectly fine to keep them poor and illiterate. Why? Well, let me give you a reason. So, and look, they even mentioned, the judge mentioned a reason earlier, right? He said that participating meaningfully in civic life includes voting and getting justice. Well, you have to be literate for that. But if you don't know how to read and write, well, then you don't have access to those things. And if you don't have access to the polls, if you don't vote, well, then that's one less vote for people who are on the others, who are on your side. And it's one more vote for someone on the other side. So they want to keep people from getting involved in the political process. Good. Michigan is Republican ruled. We're technically a red state now, with Republican control of, Congress, the state house, and the governorship. How do you keep your power? Well, you keep people from voting. And what's a great way to keep people from voting? You make sure that they can't, either through voter suppression laws or, of course, making it so that they're unable to actually participate in the democratic process. This is about power. If you attack education and you make sure that nobody can get a good education, then you'll never have to worry about them challenging your power. And that's ultimately what this is about. Power. Okay. That's it. That's all I got for you guys today. If you haven't already, please give us a like and share. Also, please consider becoming a patron. Patreon.com/TYTNation. Also, later this week, possibly, I believe on Sunday, I will be doing a 15-minute stream on Get Vocal. So you can go and download that. And also possibly join in. So into the conversation after my live stream. So that's going to be fun. Tomorrow we'll not be here due to the holiday, but we'll be back on Thursday. So everybody have a safe and happy 4th of July. Remember the flag code, so don't wear like America, bikinis or anything like that, or banana hammocks. I'm sure some people are going to. But anyway, hopefully none of you guys. But just be safe. Don't blow your hands off. Don't like put like fireworks anywhere on your body and try to fire them off, because it's never going to work out. Okay? It just doesn't work out. So stay safe. Have fun. We'll see you on Thursday. And remember, love you guys, and change begins with you. Good night, TYT Nation. We'll see you guys tomorrow on Thursday.